huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by, coming at you this time to just do a kind of random review, if you will. I bet you didn't know I'd review this movie next. I bet you didn't even know this movie existed. I'm coming at you to review Pinocchio's Revenge. This is a VHS, or this is a movie rather, that I've had on VHS tape for quite a while now in a pile. I got this VHS used for 50 cents. Long time ago, maybe even 10 years ago now. I don't even know when I got it, but this is a Vidmark Entertainment mid-90s quote-unquote gem that I just watched last night. And as I said, I probably had this VHS for maybe a decade, or around I was going to say a decade or 10 years. I might have had this tape for close to, if not 10 years or more, or something like that, and I'm just like, you know what, I just recently discovered it, and I'm like, let's check out Pinocchio's Revenge now that I'm on the... I probably wouldn't have watched it if my, if it hadn't been the fact that, my review cycle has started and I'm doing movie reviews again. So I made it all the way through it and watched Pinocchio's Revenge, which I would imagine is a straight-to-video release from Vidmark Entertainment, and I think in 1995 or 96 or something like that. I do want to say I was very pleasantly surprised that it featured that that hot mom from, I think she was in same actress who was in Children of the Corn 2, like super sexy model hot mom chick. So I was glad that she was in it. We had, we've got the whole movie to look at her anyway, and there's even kind of a quote-unquote sex scene with her and whatever, and I don't know, just some very flashy, I don't know, almost tit shots. I don't know if you can even call them tit shots. Anyway, the premise of this movie is basically, from what I can understand, this at the beginning of the movie, this guy is being seen burying which turns out to be his son or whatever, and I don't know if he buries the Pinocchio with the son. I think the dad made this Pinocchio for the son, and it's just like the dad's, picked up by the police and put in jail, and I think like 5 years later, I don't know why it takes so long to have a trial. Maybe that's real, maybe it isn't, I don't know. But this hot chick from Children of the Corn 2 is like a lawyer or some kind of attorney or whatever, and defending this guy or whatever. And it turns out that this guy is actually supposed to have killed other people too, like been a serial killer, and then killed his son. Carved his son a Pinocchio, and then killed the son and buried them both in the same grave or whatever. And then 5 years later, it's like, turns out that the dad wasn't actually the serial killer like the teenage son was, which it's just so stupid, and the dad just killed the son because he was such an evil son or whatever. So I mean, it's kind of a dumb twist, kind of a cool, mostly dumb twist, like, oh, the dad wasn't the serial killer, the son was, and that's why the dad killed the son and buried him with the Pinocchio carved little marionette thing. And it's just like, okay, whatever. And then the dad is just determined not to even have this woman save him, and she's like, oh, I can save your life and have you spend the rest of your life in prison. Like, that's any kind of, I mean, any sane person wouldn't want to even do that. Like, yeah, oh boy, that'd be great. You can you can save my life and I can just live in prison for the rest of my natural life. That sounds like a deal. That's what I hired you for. So the guy's just like, he's just hell-bent on being put to death, and he's put to death, and it seems like sometime around after that time, I don't know if it has any correlation with the fact that, the Pinocchio comes alive, the Pinocchio marionette thing the wooden carved out thing comes alive around this time, or it looks like it comes alive or whatever. One thing I will say that's decent about this movie, with the, also, I mean, obviously the hot mom chick from Children of the Corn 2 is decent and is a good thing about this movie. But another thing that was actually, for being a low budget, kind of straight to video movie, that I was kind of impressed about this movie was, instead of Child's Play, where this was kind of another Child's Play ripoff. Instead of Child's Play, where you've got a young boy, you've got a young, this hot mom's got a young daughter. And the girl's like really young, and she's a really, for a B movie and being so young, she's really a pretty competent little actress in this movie. It's plays the hot mom's daughter in this movie. So I will give the movie that. I mean, the movie is mostly just not really particularly interesting stuff, but it is always kind of, as I age and get older and stuff, it is kind of amazing when you see, especially in a low-budget horror movie, such a young kid who's a relatively, decent actor and has got so much screen time and stuff. So I don't even, I mean, I watched this last night for the first time, probably last time. I don't even barely remember anything. That's because, like, the Pinocchio doesn't, like, do anything. Like, frickin', I think halfway into it is when it even starts kind of doing something, like tripping a girl, a schoolyard bully, and almost getting the girl run over by a school bus. And basically, for the most part, you don't see the Pinocchio carved out marionette wooden thing do anything. It's more like a movie, and I will give the movie props for doing this. It's kind of, even by the time you're, towards the end of the movie, you actually do see Pinocchio, the Pinocchio wooden thing actually do stuff. But the way the movie does end up, at the end of the day, and I will give it props for doing this, having this ambiguity about it, is even at the end of the movie, you're kind of, as a viewer, you're not exactly sure if the Pinocchio thing was ever alive or if it was the daughter who in fact was the crazed killer, which, maybe the Pinocchio wooden thing possessed the daughter, who knows, maybe the daughter was going to go goofy anyway. But the thing I do like about the movie, other than Hot Mom from Children of the Corn 2, is the fact that even throughout, the last third of the movie, and even after the movie ends, you don't really know if the Pinocchio doll was ever alive or if it was just the daughter who went mad and killed. I mean, there's not a big body count like there's some TNA in this movie where there's this frickin' like young Italian chick who's like the nanny or whatever. We see her take a shower, so we can see her like completely naked, and she ends up dying by, presumably the hands of Pinocchio carved out wooden marionette thing, and the mom's boyfriend ends up dying. I think there's only like those 2, maybe 3 kills, and the kills are nothing to speak of whatsoever, and it's just like, oh my gosh. And there's a confrontation with mom and the Pinocchio at the end, and one of the things that's kind of cool is she throws the Pinocchio through this, like whatever it is, what is it when you have it in front of your couch or whatever in the living room, you put your remotes and magazines and TV guide on, I don't know, anyway, it's glass. Throws the Pinocchio. She has this fight with the Pinocchio wooden carved out marionette thing, and throws it through that. And and then she walks over to it and to see her daughter like all bloody, laying there. And it's just like, so I don't know. This movie is kind of hard to. I mean, it just plays it like, okay, so was the Pinocchio ever doing anything, or was it the daughter? And so it's kind of incompetent, but also kind of cool of the movie. I don't know. I don't know if the movie achieved something cool or not, really. Maybe it's just incompetence. One of the funny things about this movie is it features this guy who was very, very briefly featured at the end of the 1994 movie The Shadow, who was like he worked in the nut house, and Genghis Khan, or whatever his name was, Shiwan Khan or whatever, was like trying to possess him at the very end of The Shadow, and he's like, ho ho ho, we'll have none of that or whatever. And it's funny because that same guy plays a health, like a psychiatrist or college psychologist in this movie too. And the very end of this movie is the same thing, where it's like the mom's visiting the daughter in a padded cell, and it's like does the exact same thing he does at the end of The Shadow, like kind of saying, oh well, for your sake I hope your daughter never gets out, and kind of this this tracking shot that goes away from mom and daughter on the bed of the padded cell, and him like exiting the padded cell. He's like exactly does the same thing that he does at the end of The Shadow, which is kind of funny. But the movie, I guess that's one of the only good things, or the things that I'll say that's good about the movie, is the ambiguity of like, was the Pinocchio thing doing stuff, or was it the daughter all along? And there's this kind of cool scene, before, sometime before everything hits the fan towards the end, where we see the daughter like standing next to mom's bed in the middle of the night with a knife, and you think, oh my gosh, the daughter's crazy. But then the mom asks, what are you doing? And the daughter's like, I just wanted to protect you. So it's kind of like, it plays with that, is it the daughter who's the killer or not thing. And like I say, it does it in a way that's okay, but let's face it, I mean, the movie's mostly lame, so I'm only going to be able to go 1/2 of a star out of 4 stars for Pinocchio's Revenge. I mean, what did I expect, from Pinocchio's Revenge? I didn't really expect much. I was pleasantly surprised when Hot Mom from Children of the Corn 2 was in it, and there was a kind of a half-ass sex scene with her. It looks like she's probably got some silicone bumps in her chest or whatever, but It was kind of funny, the sex scene in this, because it was like, you know, almost sex scene, and it just ends before it really even starts. And I don't think there's a sex scene with Hot Mom and Children of the Corn too. So it was kind of interesting to see, you know, her do a half-ass. I don't. Maybe it was a freaking double. I couldn't tell. It was all dark and the hair was all over her face. But yeah, don't rush out to see Pinocchio's Revenge. I mean, you know, I bought it years and years ago for 50 cents. Thought it might be a laugh. It really wasn't much of a laugh. It wasn't much of anything, unfortunately. It was just like a waste of time, basically. So I don't really buy these kind of movies much anymore. It's just like, because they're all pretty much the same thing, just disappointing and a waste of time. So yes, it's possible that I might be missing out on some gems by not really watching a lot of this stuff these days, but at the same time it's like, yeah, the chance of anything really being, you know, surprisingly good is, I don't know, so low I just don't even bother. So thank you very much for watching my review of Pinocchio's Revenge, and as always, we'll catch you on the next movie review.